Okay, I'm Philip Terman. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. Went to college in Cleveland or in Ohio State. Taught for many years uh, at Clarion. It'll be 30 years actually next year. I've very much involved and passionate about poetry and the writing scene. I've outreached and coordinated some reading series and journals and tried to develop and promote regional writers as well as my writers and students at the university. I've published, I'll have my sixth full-length collection published in September of poetry. I live in a one-room red brick schoolhouse that's a little expanded. I have a wife and two kids who are living with me. The kids are living with us probably because of the COVID, and we're happy to have them around. We live outside of Grove City in the country with a big garden, and it's quite pretty here.
Well, have you been as productive since the COVID lockdown as you were before in your writing?
Yes, I've been more productive, as a matter of fact. Probably because I have more time to write. Because I feel one of the fortunate ones in the midst of all this tragedy, in the sense that since I was teaching at Clarion, as you may know, we had to, like everybody else, work remotely. So I live 45 minutes from Clarion, so I didn't commute anymore to Clarion. I taught from my schoolhouse at home, and since I've been teaching on at least one, sometimes two classes online for the last several years, teaching online wasn't difficult for me, and to make the transition to the all online schedule was pretty smooth. I know it wasn't smooth for a lot of other people and for a lot of students who hadn't had the experience of learning or teaching online. But Clarion is a hybrid institution, and we're very good about many faculty teach both online and in face-to-face. So Clarion, we made the switch over in about a weekend or so. That's not to say it hasn't been difficult for many people. And I had several students who had challenges with that. So once the transition was made, it was, there was some more focus that I had to do online and trying to smooth over stuff with students and make the transition as smoothly as we could. But once that happened, I had more time to write.
I was curious if there's some things that you find more difficult to teach online than you do in the classroom.
Having said all that, I prefer teaching in the classroom, especially what I teach, which is literature, poetry, creative writing. Most of my classes are in creative writing and literature, and the soul of those classes are discussion and workshopping our poems, and the communal experience is just an essential part of the classroom. So that's missing, and I think it's much more productive in person. But for many writers share their work through the mail and online now, and so I try to make the conversion to that. We're sharing your work through the internet, through email, and trying to make the most out of that. And sometimes that opens up students to writings that they may not do if we're in a classroom, because they feel a little bit more free. They have more privacy, for example. So to an extent, it depends on the student as well, and what the student prefers. But for me, I really enjoy the spontaneous, improvisational kind of experience that you can only have really in a classroom.
With interaction with the students, and you get
Right.
your better grasp of the emotional.
Exactly. But like I said, some students, actually, it's kind of interesting the way it works. Some students feel more comfortable online, because some people are more shy about sharing their work when they're in the same room with other people, and so it does give some folks more freedom. So it does. There's a subjectivity involved. It depends on the students and things like that, but we do what we can with the tools we have available. And it's good that we do have the online tool, because if we didn't, it would be difficult in this situation. That's an advantage of online, is that our students can, if it's just an online class, starting online. Now, these classes I was talking about are transitioning from face-to-face to online because of the COVID. But I do teach online classes that are all online, and there I get students from all over the place, and that's really fantastic. So that's an advantage, I guess.
Have you written any poetry that talks about the experience of all the people gone through the COVID lockdown?
Well, I've written about what I've gone through, and I'm sure that what I've gone through, other people have gone through. So I do have a few poems that address elements of the COVID. I'm hoping I might have more as well. I don't like to force poetry or subjects, but because it's there, it's in the air. It may work itself through what I write. It's part of the tenor and the climate of our present moment. So yes, I have written some.
There's been a lot of demonstrations lately, right in the middle of the lockdown. I imagine it would have been a lot more active if people hadn't been sitting at home, like Clarion University. I would expect there probably would have been protests in that organized.
Yeah, you would think there would be. You would think so, because they've been known to do a little bit of that before. But what a crazy time we're living in. There's the fear of the protests bringing back some of the COVID because of the way in which people are protesting. They're close together and things like that. There's just so much in the mix here. It's so complicated, and there's so many dimensions to it.
It just seems like, to me, that everything's happening at once.
It does, and it seems to be. Yeah, we have, if I may say, a triple threat here. We have the COVID, we have the demonstrations, and we have our president. That's a triple whammy right there. A negative trifecta.
So, have you seen work from your students that reflects some of this COVID concerns?
Well, when we made the transition and I had the face-to-face classes transitioning to online, as part of the new schedule, I asked them to write a couple meditations on their experiences with the COVID. And that was enlightening. And also, we had students who did, beyond the writing about it, had real serious difficulties in making the transition. Some of them didn't have the internet capability to be able to, they took face-to-face course. They didn't mean to take an online course. A few of them just never took an online class, and suddenly they had to take all their classes online, and they had to learn how to do it. And that caused a lot of some despair and emotional stress that was part of the mix. And I felt really, really bad for them, because I gave more incompletes than I ever had. Let's put it that way. To give them more time. Some of them just couldn't do any of the work. A few of them, not a lot, but a few of them, a significant few, couldn't make the transition. And then there were those who had difficulties with the transition. So it was. I know in the beginning I kind of painted this as the transition is easy, but it wasn't easy for everybody. It was very difficult for a certain percentage of the students, and the university, of course. The university, like any other organization, was completely, chaotic. I mean, what do we do now? How do we manage this? And it was. But I'm really proud, and all of us at Clarion, I think I can speak for them, are pretty proud about the way we did handle it. So we have very strong, supportive administrators and faculty. Because I live in the country, we don't go out much. I mean, certainly we miss all the stuff we normally would do. We like to go to Pittsburgh. We like to go to movies. We like to go out to eat. We like to see friends, go to their houses, hang out, and we really miss that, but we're pretty self-sustaining here. My wife is a gardener and a cook, and we have all the things we kind of need here, except for the shopping and everything else. We have to go buy some food. And so therefore they're transitioning into wearing masks and things like that. But we felt some of that frustration, but because we're already out here, I think people are beginning to realize, I've talked to people people I know that have places in the country went to the country because it was a lot safer. First of all, it's easier to socially distance yourself. And I have friends who are artists and writers, and they're normally, we're normally by ourselves almost all the time anyway because of what we do. I have a friend who's an artist. He's in a studio 8 hours a day. He lives in the country. His studio is in a barn. And he said, now everybody knows what it's like to live the way I live. So, I think cities are difficult. Cities are difficult because of have been during the virus. And being out in the country is a little easier. I think people in the urban areas, some people are beginning to recognize, hey, maybe we should move out to the small towns again. And, because small towns are dying now, and it would be great to, at some point. Well, people with projects, I know people who had books published right before the COVID. And the thing you do after a book is published is you go and do readings. And they couldn't do readings. They couldn't go out anywhere. And that's really frustrating. I have my book coming out in September, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to go out. This is not a big problem, by the way. This is just something I'm experiencing, but it's very small in the light of what so many other people are experiencing. But we know, and not just writers. Speaking for writers, though, I mean, we can't go out and share our work. I do a workshop every month in Franklin called the Bridge Literary Arts Center, and we do a workshop every month in Franklin, and we can't do them, and I really miss them. We haven't been able to do it since February or whatever. So we miss, just like with my students, miss the gatherings that are, and you understand as an artist, you do your work on your own, and then you want to share it. You probably do a documentary or something, and you want to show it to other people, and you want to get it around, and that's where we struggle, I think. I know that many universities and other organizations are talking about face-to-face in the fall. I believe we read that Clarion don't quote me on this, but I think they're going to try to do some face-to-face teaching. My phone just has a emergency alert, tornado warning in this area until 5:45. Did you hear that buzzing coming up?
So you don't know whether you're going to be able to have face-to-face classes in Clarion this fall yet or not, huh?
No. But like I say, I believe I believe that's what they're leaning towards now. Yeah. But I imagine there's going to be some kind of combination. So anyway, the first poem I wrote was near the beginning of this, was in March. It was just the idea that our kids were moving back home. The idea that we have two daughters, one is 23 and one is 19. And the daughter that was 23 graduated, and I don't know if she was intending to come back home, but she came home for a while after she graduated, but I don't know how she was intending to stay there. And then the 19-year-old was a freshman at Allegheny, and she was going to go on a travel thing in May, and that was canceled. So she came back home. So we're all home now, like we were when they were growing up. And so this is called the regathering. Caution to shelter with our family, children no longer children, back home, claiming their usual places at the common table, fumbling over the blessing, a slightly awkward settling in to the patterns and dispositions we spent all those years growing accustomed to. We thought it was over, not the life we cherished, but the day-to-day familiarity, the comfortable habits, the occasional angers, the who left the milk out, the gradual returning to our secret codes, our obscure signs, our arcane references. Not that we are called back home, our known company, reestablishing the rituals as if preparing for a holiday, and this was a normal celebration. I'll do one more poem. It was a powerful poem, and it's sort of a different perspective. We have a brother-in-law who was 80 years old, and he passed away because of COVID. So we were just a day or two before. He was on a ventilator for quite some time. He lived in New Jersey, and he was in the hospital, and he was eventually they had to take the ventilator out because it wasn't working. So this is called, you know how in a Zoom, like we're doing, you always get this, you have a Zoom meeting with, you know? So this was a Zoom meeting with Mr. Goldberg. That was his name. Early morning, the only two up, me writing on the couch, Artie coming down the stairs and looking for his keys. I'm off to get some bagels, he said, and I want to come along, he insisting I needn't. Stay in, he said, it's cold, you're writing, why should you schlep? I insisting I wanted to, and it went on like this, two old Jewish Kanackers, but he was 20 years older. This tug of war we do. I want to go, no, stay, I'll be right back. Like those ancient men at the corner table, at Corky and Lenny's delicatessen, kvetching all morning and into the afternoon, because kibitzing is the way we choose to spend their remaining time on this earth. Zoom meeting with Mr. Goldberg. Early morning, the only two up, me writing on the couch, Artie coming down the stairs and looking for his keys. I'm off to get some bagels, he says, and I want to come along. He insisting I didn't. Stay in, it's cold, you're writing, he said. Why should you schlep? I insisting I want to, and it went on like this, two old Jewish Kanackers. But he was 20 years older, this tug of war we do. I want to go. No, stay. I'll be right back. Like those ancient men at the corner table at Corky and Lenny's delicatessen in Cleveland, kvetching all morning into the afternoon, because kibitzing is the way they choose to spend the remaining time on this earth. And Artie was one of those. He loved to lie on the couch and watch his beloved Yankees. And after Susan asked him to, would refuse to remove his shoes. Why should I? And so we drove to Balthazar Bakery, that synagogue of bakeries, and he parked in front of a no parking sign. And when I pointed it out, he said, let them arrest me if they've got nothing better to do. And when we arrived back at the house, they were all up and hungry, and Artie laughing, we did it, we got the bagels. Who were we to each other, Artie, is what I would ask him. I'm the schlemiel, he might say, who dated your sister-in-law, and after your brother died, 10 years already, and there was such a warmth. The word in Yiddish is heimish, comfortable, familiar, cozy. There was a warmth in his presence. I forgot he wasn't another brother. Yes, he said again, we did it, Phil and I, we got the bagels. On the ventilator for 2 weeks, the call from Susan, they're taking him off. And a small window for each of us, including Artie, on his hospital bed, masked like an alien, the rabbi reciting the blessing, the confession before departing from this world, bringing atonement. It should be recited with a clear mind. Artie, did you have a clear mind? If a person cannot speak, it may be said in their heart. Artie, you said it in your heart. It can be recited by both men and women. Artie, you were a mensch. It could be said on any day, even the Sabbath. Artie, it was on any day, a Thursday. If a person's children are present, Artie, your children were present, you should exhort them to follow the Torah. Artie, you exhorted them to follow your Torah. One should not leave the person alone. We said in our broken words our farewells. Did you hear us? And at the last moment, all of us in our little windows, including you, Artie, we sang, "The Lord is our God, the Lord is one." And we thank the doctors and the nurses, each of us.
Thank you very much for the readings.
Sure, Ed. Thanks for letting me read it.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day and
Thank
stay
you, you
safe.
too. I appreciate you including me, and good luck with it all, and keep in touch.